Peter Bryan's mental issues seemed to take control of his life. In 1994, he was admitted to Rampton Secure Hospital after admitting to the murder of 21-year-old store assistant Nisha Sheth, whom he beat to death with a claw hammer. By 2004, officials at the hospital were satisfied with Peter's progress, and they moved him to Newham General Hospital, an open psychiatric ward, before being completely discharged a month later. On February 17, 2004, Nicola Newman went to visit her friend, 43-year-old Bryan, who lived on a ground floor flat at Manning House, Walthamstow. The sight she saw as the door opened was one of the most horrific scenes the police had ever witnessed. Welcome to History's Biggest Villains. Peter Bryan was born in London on October 4, 1969, the youngest of 7 children from immigrant parents from Barbados. He went to school in Forest Gate in Canning Town before leaving when he was 15 to work at a clothes stall, later moving on to teach cooking lessons at the local soup kitchen. In 1987, Peter was living at the Flying Angel in East London. Police were called when Bryan tried to throw another resident out of a 6th-floor window. A struggle ensued and Bryan suffered a deep gash to his head, but the police took no further action. In 1993, he was working at a fashionable boutique on the King's Road. He was fired after being caught stealing clothes. A week later, on March 18th, Bryan came back with a claw hammer. He approached 20-year-old Nisha Sheth, the daughter of the owner, and hit her in the head multiple times, killing her in front of her younger brother. An hour later, Bryan tried to commit suicide, but he survived. So he went to the police and admitted to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. For the next 8 years, he was in Rampton Secure Hospital, a maximum security psychiatric unit, before being released on the advice of psychiatrists. By February 2001, the nursing staff thought he had made considerable progress in regard to his behavior, attitude, maturity, relationships, anger, and insight. Bryan was transferred in June 2001 to the John Howard Center after a 6-month trial leave project agreed by the Home Office, being released into the care of a psychiatrist and a social worker. After applying to a mental health review tribunal in 2002, Bryan was moved to the Riverside Hostel in North London, where he was allowed to freely come and go. In October 2003, psychiatrists noted that there had been a continued improvement in his mental state, and they talked the plans for a move to more independent accommodation. In January 2004, social workers applied for Peter's transfer to low-support accommodation. However, he was transferred to an open psychiatric ward at Newham General Hospital for his safety after allegations that he had raped a 16-year-old girl. In February 2004, it was deemed that he was well enough for a little freedom. 43-year-old Bryan lived in a ground floor flat at Manning House, Walthamstow. A friend of his, Nicola Newman, let herself in to check on him. Peter Bryan answered the door with his clothes and hands covered in blood. He then told Nicola that Bryan was dead. The police walked in to find Bryan's nude, dismembered body on the floor. They also found a bloody knife and a bloody claw hammer. They looked in the kitchen to find Bryan's brain tissue in the frying pan. Peter told them that he fried Bryan's brains in butter and they were really nice. "I would have done someone else if you hadn't come along. I wanted their souls," he said to them. What? Peter was admitted to the Luton ward of Broadmoor Hospital on April 15, 2004 after a stay at Belmarsh Prison, where he was described as unpredictable, presenting a grave risk to others, and extremely dangerous. He was put on seclusion at Broadmoor, but after 4 days, he was allowed to mingle with patients under general observations or 15-minute checks. He persuaded staff he wasn't a threat, and they deemed him pleasant and cooperative, and let him out after a few days in solitary. On April 25, 2004, Bryan attacked Richard Loudwell, a fellow inmate in the dining room of Broadmoor Hospital. He started by strangling him with the cord of his trousers, before bashing his head against the floor multiple times. A report into the incident stated Bryan intended to kill Richard as quickly as possible, but gave up because he got tired. Loudwell was rushed to the hospital, where he died a month later. After the attack, Bryan told the psychiatrist, "I've had these urges towards him ever since I saw him. He's the bottom of the food chain. Old, haggard." He also said, "I wanted to kill him and then eat him. I didn't have much time. If I did, I tried to cook him and eat him." A 2011 inquest jury later found that Bryan hadn't been adequately assessed at the hospital secure unit before being released from seclusion. The jury also said the dining room wasn't adequately observed by nursing staff. On March 15, 2005, Peter pled guilty at the Old Bailey to 2 counts of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Judge Giles Forrester said, "You killed on these last 2 occasions because it gave you a thrill and a feeling of power when you ate flesh." Forrester then sentenced Bryan to a whole life tariff. In 2006, Lord Chief Justice Lord Phillips overturned the whole life tariff, but said it was unlikely that Bryan would ever be released. The sentences were changed to a minimum of 15 years. The British criminal justice system is crazy. This dude has killed 3 people, and there's a possibility that he could get out. Like, he could get out. Like, just because they say it's unlikely doesn't mean it's never going to happen. Like, he could get out, and he's already killed 3 people, and he's mentally unstable. What? Lowell's family did win a payout from Broadmoor in 2009 to the tune of £40,000 for his death at the hands of Bryan. Bryan was committed to Broadmoor Hospital for treatment, where he still remains today. Like I said earlier, there's so much failure within the hospital system right here. It's so much failure, because you're telling me that a guy who murders someone can be released after 10 years. After 10 years, he kills another guy, he goes back to prison, but then when he's in prison for the second murder, you're not watching him well enough, and he kills a 3rd guy in prison. This is supposed to be a maximum security prison where the staff are supposed to be on their square. But how are you able to murder someone in a mental hospital with all these staff? How? Because someone's not paying attention. There's so many flaws in the system that got missed. When he admitted to killing the woman, he should have been in prison. That's all I had to say. This story was crazy. Like, I was looking up, just researching the facts, and I'm just like, what? He did what to his brain? Like, what? But leave a like if you enjoyed that, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thank you for everyone who's been watching these videos. My viewership is going up pretty good. I appreciate everyone who's been watching the videos and just been supporting the channel. I appreciate everyone. But leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Turn on that bell, because I'm posting pretty frequently over here. But I'm out. Peace.